Welcome back, Heartland fans! The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here, Ty Borden's unexpected return. After years of heartache, healing, and learning to move forward without him, the impossible has happened. Ty is back. But his return is far from simple. As he steps back into the lives of those he left behind, old wounds reopen, questions arise, and emotions run high. This is a story of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds that tie us together. As Ty navigates his way through the pain and the joy of his return, we're reminded that sometimes the past has a way of finding us even when we least expect it. So grab your tissues, settle in, and get ready for an emotional journey. Heartland is about to take us on a ride we'll never forget. Amy, who has spent years healing and raising their daughter, Lindy, alone, is torn between the joy of seeing Ty again and the trauma of losing him once. Can she ever truly forgive him? And what does Ty's return mean for their family and the future of Heartland? Let's dive into the emotional roller coaster that is Heartland Season 19, Episode 1, where Ty's return changes everything. The episode begins with the serene beauty of Heartland Ranch at dawn. The sun slowly rises over the sprawling landscape, casting a golden glow across the peaceful pastures. Amy Fleming, now a strong, independent single mother, leads her horse, Spartan, through the fields. Her expression is calm, yet there's a depth to her eyes that reveals the journey she's been on since losing Ty. Amy has learned to navigate life without him, becoming the heart of the ranch and raising their daughter, Lindy. But even now, as the years have passed, there's an undeniable sadness in her. The absence of Ty still lingers, hidden behind her smiles and her daily routines. Amy watches Lindy, who is now older and more lively, giggling and playing with her pony as she walks. The contrast between Amy's quiet grief and Lindy's carefree innocence is jarring. The absence of a man from their lives is as evident as the bond between mother and daughter. Amy pauses, a bittersweet smile crossing her face as she watches her daughter. "You've got your daddy's way with horses," she murmurs softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The memory of Ty, of everything they shared, floods her heart, and for a moment it feels as if time has stopped. But she pushes the thought away. Life has moved on, and so must she. Suddenly, the stillness of the morning is broken by the sound of hooves in the distance. Amy's body stiffens, her instincts sharp as she turns toward the sound. The figure approaching is familiar yet distant, a silhouette in the morning light. Jack Bartlett, the ever-vigilant patriarch of the family, halts mid-step, his gaze narrowing as he watches the rider make their way toward the ranch. This rider seems different in some way. Jack's heart skips a beat as he tries to make sense of it. His gut tells him he knows this person, but his mind refuses to believe it. The rider comes closer, and the sunlight catches his face. In an instant, everything changes. "It's Ty Borden," Jack mutters, his voice thick with disbelief. His usually steady composure falters as he stares in shock. The man he thought was lost forever is standing right there in front of him. Amy steps out onto the porch, her heart pounding in her chest. She shields her eyes from the bright sun, trying to process what she's seeing. Confusion overtakes her. This can't be real. Lindy, sensing something significant happening, stops playing. The moment hangs in the air like a delicate thread, stretching taut with tension. Then, as the rider removes his hat, the truth is revealed. It's Ty alive standing before them. Amy's breath catches in her throat. "Ty," she whispers, her voice shaking. Her hands tremble and the name escapes her lips in disbelief. Her heart races, torn between relief and terror. Could it really be him? The noise draws the rest of the family outside. Lou, always the emotional one, gasps, her hands flying to her mouth. Tears begin to well in her eyes as she stares at the man they thought they had lost. Georgie, who had just come home for the weekend, stands frozen, eyes wide in shock, unable to process what she's seeing. Tim, the skeptic, slams the door of his truck and makes his way toward the group with no expression. His eyes scan Ty up and down, as if searching for some explanation, some sign that this is real and not some cruel joke. The air is thick with disbelief, and it's Lindy's innocent voice that finally breaks the silence. "Mommy, who is that?" she asks, her voice soft and filled with curiosity. Amy's heart shatters in that moment. She looks down at her daughter, unsure of how to explain the impossible. With tears streaming down her face, she whispers, "That's your father." The revelation hits everyone like a wave crashing against the shore. Jack, the man who's always been the rock of the family, stumbles back slightly, struggling to find the right words. Lou, tears now streaming down her face, struggles to comprehend the situation. Georgie looks back and forth between Amy and Ty, trying to reconcile the man she thought was lost with the person standing before her. Tim, ever the skeptic, narrows his eyes, unsure of what to believe. His disbelief gives way to confusion and something deeper, anger, perhaps, or the unresolved grief of years of loss. After a long pause, the family slowly gathers inside the barn. The tension is thick in the air, the light harsh, and the emotions even more so. Ty stands in front of them, visibly older, his face worn and marked by time. The man they once knew seems distant, different, and yet still unmistakably him. His eyes are filled with regret, sorrow, and something deeper, an unspoken desperation to be understood. He takes a deep breath, knowing that what he says next will change everything. "I know this is hard to believe, but I never died," Ty begins, his voice thick with emotion. The silence in the room is deafening as every family member holds their breath, waiting for what comes next. Ty explains that after the accident, he was in a coma. The doctors had given up hope, believing he wouldn't wake up. And when he did, he had no memory of who he was. He glances at Amy, his eyes filled with sorrow, and continues, "I didn't remember you. I didn't remember us." The room gasps in shock, and Lou instinctively places a hand over her heart, overcome with the weight of his words. Amy, struggling to process, finally speaks, her voice barely a whisper. "Then why? Why didn't you come back sooner?" Ty lowers his gaze, clearly pained by the question. "I didn't remember you," he repeats, his voice cracking. "I didn't remember us." He pauses for a long moment, taking in the gravity of the situation. The emotions in the room swirl between joy, sorrow, and frustration. Amy's heart aches as she listens to him, torn between the relief of knowing he's alive and the anger of the years spent without him. Jack, his voice thick with emotion, asks the question everyone is dying to know. "So, what changed?" Ty swallows hard, the weight of the past bearing down on him. "I started having dreams about a little girl with Amy's eyes." He looks at Lindy, his gaze softening. "And then I saw Amy's face. The memories came rushing back, and I knew I had to find you." The room falls silent as Amy processes this revelation. The weight of it is almost too much to bear. The realization that Lindy, his daughter, was the key to bringing him back hits Amy like a tidal wave. But before she can fully grasp what this means, the day ends, leaving everything unresolved. As the evening settles over the ranch, the weight of Ty's return hangs in the air like a thick fog. Amy finds herself walking aimlessly around the pasture, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. The night sky is a whirlwind of emotions. Clear and filled with twinkling stars, it offers no comfort. She leans against the fence, her thoughts drifting back to the past, the love she shared with Ty, the life they built together, and the devastating moment she had to let go of him. The memory of that final goodbye, the hope she once clung to that he might return, now seems like a cruel joke. But Taya's back, and yet everything feels different. Her mind drifts to the words he spoke in the barn. He never died. It's hard to wrap her head around it. How could he have been alive all these years, lost with no memory of her? How could she have spent so long mourning him when he was out there, struggling in some other life, trying to remember what he lost? The soft sound of footsteps behind her pulls her from her thoughts. She doesn't have to turn around to know it's Ty. She can feel his presence, his warmth, his quiet strength. He steps up beside her, silent for a moment, as if unsure of what to say or how to approach her. "I missed you, Amy." His voice is soft, almost fragile. There's a vulnerability in his words that catches her off guard. He's not the same man she remembers. His face is older, his eyes tired, and there's an undeniable sadness in his posture. But beneath it all, there's the same love she once knew. Amy closes her eyes for a moment, tears welling up as the emotions she's kept buried for so long rush to the surface. She lets out a shaky breath and finally turns to face him. Her heart is pounding in her chest, and the questions begin to tumble out, though her voice trembles with uncertainty. "Do you have any idea what it was like?" she asks, her voice shaky with emotion. "Losing you, thinking you were gone forever, trying to move on with Lindy, pretending you were just a memory, a part of the past?" Tay's eyes soften as he looks at her. He steps closer, his gaze never leaving hers. He reaches out his hand, trembling slightly, as he touches her arm, a silent plea for her to understand. "I know, Amy. I know what it cost you. But I swear, if I could have come back sooner, I would have. I never wanted to leave you. I never wanted to hurt you." Amy pulls away slightly, her eyes welling with tears. "You don't get it, Ty," she whispers, her voice thick with pain. "I spent so long trying to heal, trying to move forward. I raised Lindy alone, built a life without you. And now, here you are, telling me you've been alive all this time, but you couldn't remember us. How do you expect me to just pick up where we left off? How do you expect me to open my heart to you again after everything we've been through?" Ty's face falls as he steps back, clearly devastated by her words. He knows the pain he's caused her, the wounds that have yet to fully heal. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away, Amy," he says quietly. "But I'm here now. I'm here for you, for Lindy. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." The air between them is thick with tension. Amy can feel the conflict inside her. Part of her longs to run into his arms, to erase the years of pain and lost time. But another part of her is scared of opening her heart again, only to have it broken, scared of letting someone back into her life who caused her so much grief. She looks up at him, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. "I don't know how to do this, Tay. I don't know how to love you again after everything." Ty's eyes are filled with anguish. "I'll wait, Amy. For as long as it takes. I'm not going anywhere." The words hang in the air, but Amy is unsure of what to do with them. She turns away, walking a few steps before stopping, her back to him. She softly asks, "What about Lindy? How do we explain this to her? She's only ever known you through stories and pictures. She doesn't understand that you were gone, and now you're here. How do I even begin to explain that to her?" Ty is silent for a long moment before he answers. "I don't know, but I'll do my best. I want to be a father to her, Amy. I don't want to be some stranger. I want to be part of her life, part of your life if you'll let me." Amy's heart aches as she turns to face him. She wants to believe him. She wants to believe that they can pick up the pieces of their shattered past and create a new future. But the uncertainty, the fear, is too strong. "I don't know, Ty. I don't know what I can give you anymore." Ty looks at her, his eyes filled with sorrow. "I'm not asking for everything, Amy. Just a chance. A chance to prove that I'm still the man you loved. I'm here now, and I'll be here for as long as you'll have me." As the night deepens, they stand there in silence, the space between them heavy with everything unsaid. The uncertainty about their future looms large, but for the first time in years, there's a glimmer of hope. But hope alone isn't enough to heal the wounds that run so deep. The battle between the past and the future, between love and pain, is far from over. Inside the ranch house, the rest of the family is still grappling with the shock of Ty's return. Lou and Jack have retreated into the kitchen, whispering to each other, their voices tense. Georgie is pacing nervously, her mind racing with questions. Tim is brooding, his arms crossed over his chest, clearly struggling to accept the reality of the situation. The family dynamic has shifted, and no one knows what comes next. The unanswered questions about Ty's time away, his memory loss, and his sudden reappearance have left everyone on edge. They all want answers, but they're afraid of what those answers might mean for their lives, for their family. As for Amy, she's left standing at the crossroads, unsure of how to move forward. The love she once had for Tae is still there, buried beneath years of heartache and loss. But can she truly allow herself to love him again, to trust him again? Or will the past continue to haunt her, preventing her from moving forward? The future of Heartland, of her family, is at stake. And Amy knows that the hardest journey is still ahead. The days following Ty's return are a blur of emotions, confusion, and strained silences. The family, though they've welcomed him back with tentative arms, is still grappling with the shock of his sudden reappearance. Tae is alive, but the man who left them is not the same person who has come back. His presence in the house feels both foreign and familiar, and the tension is palpable, hanging thick in the air like a storm waiting to break. Amy spends the majority of her days avoiding direct confrontation with Tae. She's torn between wanting to hold on to the life she's built without him and the undeniable pull of the man she once loved. Every time she looks at him, she's reminded of all the years they lost, of the grief and heartache that followed his departure. But the love she once had for him, though buried deep, has not vanished. It's still there, lingering just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise again. In the quiet moments of the day, Amy finds herself watching Tae from a distance, noting the subtle changes in him, the pain in his eyes, the guilt that never quite leaves his face. It's clear to her now that he's not the same man he was before, and that fact only makes things more complicated. He's trying to reconnect with his family, trying to rebuild what was lost. But there's an unspoken understanding that things cannot simply go back to the way they were. Tae returns to Heartland, relieved to be back with his loved ones, but crushed by the weight of his absence. Struggling with lost memories and the emotional toll of his disappearance, he realizes the damage done. Amy, hesitant and hurt, confronts him about the pain of raising their daughter, Lindy, alone. Tae admits his regret and vows to rebuild their lives, asking for time and trust. Amy, though uncertain, feels a flicker of hope. Their journey to heal begins, but it will take time to mend what's broken. Stay connected with me on my YouTube channel, NEXTDOOR, for more heartfelt stories and updates.